It's been a week since the launch of Highguard, and you're hearing how Highguard is already falling apart. Steam chart player count severely dropping from its 97,000 peak to now below 10,000. Content creators spreading noise claiming it is unfinished, badly designed, or already dead. And you're maybe thinking, is it all that bad? The short answer is no, it is not bad at all. It is actually very good, and to cut through the noise and provide you with the even-headed take of all this nonsense, we're going to explore how poor decision-making allowed this cesspool that is the internet, not that it doesn't have its moments, amplify the negativity that is unwarranted to Highguard.
Ready to raid! Jumping siege tower rolling in!
Simply said, Highguard is a good game. Its developers do not deserve the toxic nonsense flying over social media recently. All this negative publicity about Highguard only showcases how low the opportunistic can be to appeal to the algorithm's favor, to perpetuate the most extreme of ideas and exploit the human tendency to be stimulated to negativity. Being free to play, there is no financial cost to the player, and there are other games that are paid that have had launches so disastrous that they absolutely deserve the hard criticism. I mean, let's not forget about Cyberpunk 2077. I do have my criticism of Highguard, but it comes from a genuine interest in the success of the developers at Wildlight Entertainment. This studio came together with experience building the biggest games like Call of Duty, Battlefield, Star Wars Jedi, Apex Legends, Plant vs. Zombies, and much more. Games that have been monumental to video game culture and allowed the industry to become as massive as it is now on epic proportions. In the current state of the industry where mass layoffs are unfortunately normal, and just the past couple of years, closures of some of the best known studios around the world, the developers could have played it safe and made a game that was redundant with what already exists today. But instead they took advantage of their studio's fully funded status and independence from a big profit-focused publisher and attempted to create something new despite the risk. This is commendable, admirable, and I support their efforts. Now, does that mean I'm going to play Highguard forever? I don't know. I do enjoy the game, but whether I stay for the long term or not, that's Wildland's responsibility to make the effort, which I feel they are, to give me and everyone else the reason to try and stay for the long term. But they do have something that's worth looking into. With the rough image at launch, the best thing the developers can do is not make the mistake that they did by staying radio silent after the Game Awards were revealed. They need to stay plugged in with the gamers, build that relationship, communication, and update the game quickly. And next time, just think carefully about your marketing strategy, because sometimes when someone offers you a chance to showcase your new game to the whole world for free, it might be too good to be true. There are gameplay mechanics that definitely need to be adjusted, but the reason for the severe player count drop is not that the gameplay is bad, but that there was no communicating what the game was and therefore confusing to the initiative of not one type of genre, but multiple. Specifically, it would be confusing if you aren't collectively familiar with how to win Battle Royale games, Rainbow Six Siege, hero shooters with a little bit of mobile like League of Legends, because Highguard incorporates mechanics from all those game types. Now, as a game developer, it would be fair to assume that gamers are aware of what these varied games are. It is another thing to assume that gamers know how to play all of these games, let alone well enough to win at it. Most gamers naturally eventually converge towards specific game types that they have come to individually prefer: FPS, strategy, racing sim, etc. Since launch every day, I've heard at least one person every other game voice that they had no idea what to do. And I agree, my first hour of playing, I had no idea myself, and I was just wandering aimlessly across the map, eventually shutting down the game. It was only from the next day where I gave Highguard another try and slowly studied the varied character skill sets, explore the map layout, play with the base destructibility did. Finally, I see how I could incorporate strategies from other well-established games, positioning and movement from Apex Legends for gunfights, strategically reshaping the base to better defend it like in Rainbow Six Siege, and coordinating skills and attacks as in Overwatch. But no, these are all games that I have dedicated hundreds of hours to and played extensively with the utmost intent to win. And if I did not have that experience, like many others trying Highguard for the first time, I would have remained confused and naturally lost interest. In the digital age where tech companies have conditioned our minds for constant hits of dopamine, video games today unfortunately have to be made with that psychology in mind. Now, when Highguard was first showcased in the 2025 Game Awards as the tentpole game reveal of the show, personally and objectively, I don't think it was that bad of a trailer. But it wasn't mind-blowing either. A unique art style, whether you like it or not, is a different question. Guns, jumping off horseback, flashy ultimate abilities, explosions, and destructions, all boxes checked. But that is where the problem lies. It was just fine and standard. In comparison, at the 2024 Game Awards, we got the reveal of Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet from Naughty Dog. The year before that, Monster Hunter Wilds, and before that, in 2022, Final Fantasy XVI. Now, however you feel about those games today, The point is that the name of those franchises and the development studios carries a lot of weight and have the power to trigger massive cultural movements and anticipation just by hearing it. So when Jeff Keighley introduced Highguard, a lot of us were expecting to be presented with a reveal of that caliber. At long last, we were finally going to get a Half-Life 3, a new Uncharted or Last of Us, perhaps a new Smash Brothers or gameplay footage at the anticipated new Mass Effect. But it wasn't that. It was a normal looking game. And this is textbook case of overpromising and under-delivering. You never want to do this. It is always under-promise and over-deliver. Now, I don't deny that Jeff Keighley genuinely thought he was helping Wildlight Entertainment after getting a private demo of Highguard. He thought it was a cool looking game, which it is, that was doing something new, which it is, by talented, experienced developers, which they are, under a newly formed independent studio that is well funded, therefore not under pressure by large publishers to take shortcuts and trade creativity for redundancy. Giving credit to where it's due, Mr. Keighley has done a lot for video games in terms of bringing it into the mainstream and establishing social and cultural normalcy, giving it legitimacy as an art form, an industry worth investing in, and quite simply, an absolute money-making monster of a business. And most commendable is he has made it a point to give indie gaming developers a chance at success in this highly competitive business for our attention. Despite Wildlight originally intending to shadow drop the game like how Apex Legends was, Keighley felt strongly in his mind that the platform he built, which encompasses his media presence and events such as the Game Awards, would only have marketing upside for Highguard, a generous offering of both an unintentional reveal of Keighley's hubris. When the Game Awards first started in 2014, it had 1.9 million live streams. This past 2025 show broke viewership records with 171 million global live streams, up 11% of 2024's 154 million. You can empathize with how Wildlight reacted to this proposition. It is not uncommon where the cost and effort of marketing a product is much higher and difficult than the building of the product itself. So what business would not seriously take an offer like that offered by Keighley for free, and take the offer they did, seemingly with little careful strategic consideration from both Keighley and Wildlight of how it would play out. Now, I suspect Wildlight had little time to carefully think through the strategy between when Keighley made his offer and the airing of the show. Regardless, Wildlight should have reevaluated how this played into their marketing strategy, and Jeff Keighley, with the awareness of his brand, platform reach, and experience in this bipolar industry, should have acted as a strategic partner to the studio rather than passively as a generous charitable figure. It is simply this. Anyone who is familiar with how to play Apex Legends, Rainbow Six Siege, and Overwatch are the prime prospective audience, as skill sets and strategies from those games are transferable to Highguard. The game's primary issue stems from one simple odd choice. The decision to headline with a 3 vs 3 mode only highlights issues that the mass market audience might not be able to get past for those players to be retained. With only a total of 6 players, it immediately feels empty. After initial time given to fortify your base, you're given 1.5 minutes to look around, scavenge for resources, which feels as if you're playing Minecraft solo. Even in a full 3-on-3 firefight, that feeling of emptiness still lingers. But what is most peculiar about the developer's choice to default to 3 vs 3 is that it causes the game dynamics to hugely favor the more aggressive team and severely punishes the team that loses an ally first, and it's a steep hill climb for any comeback to happen. When the two teams engage each other and are gonna fight on the field, the moment one person is down, the respawn queue is 15 seconds unless they are revived. 15 seconds is too long for a 3-person team, and even worse, if the raid phase has not yet started. Unless someone has placed a mobile spawn point via Marvel's ultimate skill, then the respawn player has to start from base and travel all the way back across the map to support their team. That's another 15 to 30 seconds depending on where they are on the field. Throughout that whole time, that person's team is fighting 2 against 3, a third of their team is down, and they become immediately overwhelmed and wiped. Take the same scenario, but this time during the raid phase. If the raiding team plants a bomb and it starts a 60-second timer, the spawn time of 15 seconds, you lose a quarter of the time just waiting. And even when you respawn at one of the determined points on base, the travel time to get to one of those bomb sites takes a few seconds, further losing time to the timer. And this punishment is compounded because if the invading team one by one takes out your allies in a staggered manner, when you respawn, you're stuck fighting against an overwhelming odds and waiting for the rest of your team to respawn makes no sense either, as it takes too long that by the time you are all ready, the bomb would be close to detonation if it hasn't already. And let's not forget that you lose your high level armor upon respawn, making it that much easier to be picked off by the higher kitted opposing team. Now, the dynamics suddenly changed when Wildlands updated the game to have an experimental 5 versus 5 mode. All those issues I detailed go away. The map feels fuller, teams can be strategic with who goes out onto the field versus who stays back in base to fortify, firefights are much more interesting, and teams are less prone to being overwhelmed the moment one allied is down. In addition, defending a base during the raid phase is much more frantic, and the defending team is much better capable of executing a long defense, stronger defense, and pushing back the invading team. The game is better balanced, exciting, strategically stimulating, and overall fun. So it's perplexing why Wildlands didn't start with 5 vs 5 from the get-go, as the game plays significantly better with it than 3 vs 3. And interestingly, players begin to naturally exhibit coordinated actions now that there are much more visual cues to identify the action around them. Players just better knew what to do and where to go. So I have a request for you. Whether you already tried Highguard or not at launch, give it a try, especially its 5 vs 5 mode. It plays so much better, the action is quick, frantic, and an absolute blast. Play it how I argue is the best way it should have started from the very beginning, and decide for yourself if you want to continue. If you're hooked, awesome, hope to see you in. If it's not for you, no big deal, it's free to play, and at the very least you can experience how the independent developers of Wildlife tried something risky and new. That attempt by itself is something that we, fans of games, at the very least can recognize and thank them for. Trying to bring creativity, originality into a space at risk of redundancy.